The Grand Assembly Hall on Nexus Prime gleamed with cold light. The walls were made of a metal that reflected every color and none at all. Rows of representatives from 100 different worlds sat in their designated spaces. Some had skin like stone. Some were beings of pure energy contained in protective fields. Others looked almost human, except for the extra arms or the eyes that saw in spectrums humans could never understand. Price walked down the central aisle. He was 53 years old, with gray hair and lines around his eyes. He had been a diplomat for 30 years. He had learned to read the smallest changes in body language. He had learned to understand what was said in the spaces between words. Today, he could feel the weight of dismissal in the air before anyone spoke. He took his seat in the human section. Earth's flag hung beside him, a blue and white banner that suddenly seemed very small in this vast hall. Stood up, the Prime Minister was ancient by human standards. He had lived for 472 years. His skin was translucent, and inside his body, lights moved and shifted like thoughts becoming visible. His voice carried the weight of centuries when he spoke. We are gathered to discuss the matter of younger species and their role in galactic defense. Specifically, we must address the human issue. Felt his jaw tighten. The human issue, as if humanity were a problem to be solved. The humans claim to have achieved technological advancement. They boast of their quantum engineering. They speak of their trade routes and their military forces, but let us be clear about what they truly are. They are children. Violent, unpredictable children with dangerous toys. The commander beside made a sound like grinding metal. It was laughter. Other representatives joined in, their sounds like nothing Earth had ever produced. Remained still. His hands rested on the table in front of him. His face showed nothing. We have reviewed the human military records. The commander's voice cut through the noise. His name was, and he commanded a fleet of 10,000 ships. Their vessels are slow. Their weapons are crude. They rely on biological soldiers instead of proper combat drones. They are, frankly, beneath serious consideration. A representative from the collective stood up. They were smaller than humans, with 4 limbs and skin that changed colors based on emotion. This one was flushed with what might have been agreement or fear. The motion is clear. The threat approaches from the outer sectors. We must form the Joint Defense Initiative immediately. The question is whether any species should be included besides those with proven military capability. Look directly at Price. What is your position, Ambassador? Does humanity wish to contribute to the defense initiative? Took a breath. He had prepared for this moment for weeks. He had read every report. He had studied every pattern. He knew what was coming. Earth's military capabilities are significant, said. His voice was steady and calm. We have 15,000 active combat vessels. We have 300 stations across human space. We have trained soldiers who have faced enemies you have never encountered. We have technology that outdated before it leaves your shipyards, interrupted. I have seen your weapon systems. They are developments we abandoned 500 years ago. Laughter filled the hall again. Waited for the sound to fade. He had been trained for this. He had been trained to keep his emotions in check while the galaxy insulted his people. He had been trained to smile and negotiate and find common ground. But something inside him broke clean. Not his composure. His composure remained perfect. What broke was his hope that the Council would ever treat humanity as anything more than a minor annoyance. I see, said simply. He stood up. The motion was deliberate. He buttoned his jacket. He picked up the data pad that contained Earth's formal application to join the Joint Defense Initiative. He held it for 1 second, then he placed it carefully on the table. Earth withdraws its application, he said. We withdraw all personnel from Council committees. We withdraw from the Trade Alliance as of this moment. We withdraw all military cooperation agreements. We withdraw from the Science Collective. Effective immediately, humanity will conduct its own affairs. We will defend our own space. We will develop our own technologies. We will make our own decisions about our future. The hall went silent. His eyes flashed with sudden light. His grinding sound became something sharper, more like a threat. The representative changed colors so rapidly that he became a blur. You are making a mistake, said coldly. Without Council protection, humanity will be devoured by the first serious threat it encounters. Price looked at the ancient. He looked at the commander. He looked at every representative in that vast hall. His eyes were clear and steady. That is our burden to bear, he said. We will manage it ourselves. He turned and walked back down the central aisle. With every step, he could feel the shock behind him. Not concern, not worry, just shock that a species so young and so weak had dared to refuse them. Price did not look back. When he reached the great doors of the assembly hall, a smaller official tried to block his path. The official was nervous. His lights flickered with agitation. Ambassador Price, surely you will want to discuss this further. The council can reconsider. Did not stop walking. He did not even slow down. He walked directly toward the official, and the official, sensing the quiet determination in the human's eyes, stepped aside. The doors of the Grand Assembly Hall closed behind Price. Inside the hall, the representatives began to speak again. Their voices rose with confusion and anger and something else. Something that might have been disrespect. Called for order. Demanded that the council send a military delegation to force humanity back to the negotiating table. But it was already too late. In space stations across human territory, in military command centers, and in research facilities, humans were receiving the news. Humanity had been dismissed. Humanity had been insulted. Humanity had chosen to walk away. The Galactic Council had no idea what they had just started. Price stood in the corridor outside the assembly hall. He opened a communication channel to Earth. The message was simple and clear. "We are on our own now," he said. "Begin Protocol Omega, begin immediately." On Earth, in a command center buried deep beneath the surface, General received the message. She had been waiting for this call. She had known it would come. She looked at the officers around her and nodded slowly. "You have your orders," she said. "Activate all contingency plans. Humanity is free now." Free to be the news of humanity's withdrawal reached Earth's military command center in less than an hour. It came through official channels first. Then it came through the personal communication from Price to General. Then it spread through every human colony, every research station, every military installation across human space. General sat in the command center, watching the data flow across her screens. She was 46 years old. Her uniform was simple and practical. Her hair was pulled back tight. Her face showed the kind of calmness that only comes from someone who has already thought through every possible outcome. Around her, officers began to move faster. Voices rose with questions. Some were angry, some were afraid, some were excited. Raised her hand, the room went quiet. "We expected this," she said. "We have protocols for this. Everyone moves to Contingency Plan Omega. Immediately. I want all research facilities to shift to independent development as of right now. Stop all collaborative projects with council partners. Stop right now. Archive all shared data. Secure everything we have developed." One of her officers, a young woman named Sarah Wilson, stood up. "General, what about the trade agreements? We have 7 cargo ships that are scheduled to dock at stations in the next 48 hours. Reroute them, send them to human colonies only. Cancel all external trade operations. We need to be self-sufficient. We need to be independent. The council underestimated us. They mocked us. That ends now." Another officer, Commander David Torres, spoke up from his station. "The military is requesting clarification on weapons development restrictions. Under the council agreements, we were prohibited from developing several categories of weapon systems. Without those restrictions, we start work immediately," said firmly. "I want prototypes for quantum phase weapons within 6 months. I want improved shielding systems. I want better propulsion technology. Everything they told us we could not build, we build now. Everything they told us was too dangerous, we make it anyway. The Galactic Council made a choice. Now we make ours." The officers looked at each other. This was a threshold moment. This was the point at which humanity stopped asking for permission and started taking what it needed. Across human space, similar scenes played out. In the research complex on Mars, scientists received orders to stop all collaborative projects with Council scientists. Years of shared research ended immediately. Scientists who were working in human facilities were given notice to leave. Engineers who had been helping to develop new technologies were sent home. The separation was clean and quick. On the colony world of New Sol, farming communities prepared for the loss of agricultural expertise. Families gathered in town halls and listened to officials explain that Earth was now independent. Some people celebrated. Others worried about what would happen if everything fell apart. In space, human traders redirected their ships. The routes that had taken them to council markets were abandoned. Ships began to converge on human territories, bringing resources and supplies back to Earth-controlled space. The network of human trade changed shape almost overnight, becoming inward-focused, self-reliant. Military ships began to receive new orders. Instead of serving as auxiliary vessels in Council fleets, human warships now gathered near the borders of human space. They formed defensive perimeters. They established blockades. They made it clear that human territory was now separate from Council territory. And through it all, there was a strange quiet. Price returned to Earth after 4 weeks of travel. He went directly to the military command center to meet with General. They sat in a private room, looking at detailed maps of galactic territory. The Council has sent 3 diplomatic requests, told her. They are asking for an explanation. They are offering compromises. They say that they were misunderstood, is claiming he was merely testing human resolve. Studied the maps. She traced a line along the border of human space. How much military force do they have positioned near our borders? Enough to be threatening, said, but not enough to invade. They are still focused on the situation. That is giving us time. How much time? Asked. Unknown, but the threat is accelerating. Our intelligence suggests they will launch a major offensive within the next 4 months. Nodded slowly. She had already been planning for this. She had already been preparing. The withdrawal from the Council was not a response to anger. It was a calculated decision. It was a move in a game that no one else understood yet. We have 7 research teams working on upgraded weapon systems, said. We have 3 manufacturing facilities converting to military production. We have 14 military academies accelerating their training schedules. By the time the attack, we will be ready for anything. And what about the Council? Asked. What happens when they realize we are not going to come crawling back? Looked up from the maps. Her eyes were steady and cold and absolutely certain. They will suffer, she said. They will suffer until they learn that humans are not beings to be dismissed. They will suffer until they understand that we were never asking for their permission. We were always more than they could comprehend. In the weeks that followed, human space transformed. The change was subtle from the outside. No announcements were made. No aggressive moves were taken, but internally everything shifted. Research facilities increased their output by 40%. Manufacturing plants ran 24-hour shifts. Military training became more intense, more focused, more deadly. Scientists who had been restricted by Council regulations began experimenting with technologies that had been forbidden for years. In the colleges and universities across human worlds, students received quiet suggestions that they might want to join the military. The human population was mobilizing, not with war drums or angry speeches, but with quiet, absolute determination. On the streets of human cities, people talked about what it meant to be human. They talked about independence. They talked about standing on their own. They talked about a future where humanity did not need the Galactic Council. And on Nexus Prime, the great space station of the Council, human representatives were no longer present in the hallways. The seats assigned to humanity in the Council chambers remained empty. The human research laboratories were sealed and abandoned. The silence was loud. The Galactic Council continued its meetings. They discussed the threat. They made plans for defense, but something had changed. Something fundamental had shifted. In the darkness of space, between the stars, human ships moved quietly through human territory. The attack came exactly as the human intelligence networks had predicted. It came on a Tuesday morning. It came with the force of 1,000,000 hammers striking at once. They were not like other beings in the galaxy. They were a hive mind, billions of individual creatures acting as one unified consciousness. They did not negotiate. They did not compromise. They consumed everything they encountered. They were the darkness that civilized species feared in the depth of space. The first attack wave hit the outer Council colonies at 300 hours. Warships emerged from quantum tunnels without warning. They appeared above populated worlds like nightmares made solid. They appeared above mining stations. They appeared above research facilities. The destruction was immediate and total. On the world of 7, the Council's most advanced military base, 17,000 soldiers died in the first hour. They did not attack buildings. They attacked people. They attacked infrastructure. They attacked everything that made life possible. The Empire's Eastern Fleet, commanded by himself, engaged in open space. The ships were faster than human vessels. The weapons were more powerful. They had been fighting wars for 10,000 years. It did not matter. They adapted, they learned. They adjusted their tactics in real time. They transformed from one formation to another. They surrounded the fleet and closed in like a living thing. Its flagship was destroyed 72 minutes into the battle. The commander was killed along with his entire command staff. The Eastern Fleet scattered. Some ships tried to escape. Most were destroyed before they could jump to hyperspace. Across the outer sectors, the same pattern repeated. The Galactic Council's military forces, superior in technology and training, fell before the onslaught. The Council had believed they were invincible. They had been wrong. Back on Nexus Prime, the Great Council station, panic began to spread. Emergency broadcasts flooded through the communication networks. World after world sent distress calls. Station after station reported incursions. Called an emergency session of the Council. The representatives gathered in the Assembly Hall, the same hall where Price had made his withdrawal announcement only 4 months earlier. The fear in the room was thick enough to touch. "They have breached our defenses," announced. His voice, usually so controlled, now shook with emotion. 17 outer worlds have fallen. The Eastern Fleet is destroyed. We are losing control of the outer sectors. A representative from the collective stood up. His entire body was flashing colors, showing terror and desperation. "What do we do? What can we do? Their ships are everywhere. They are unstoppable." "We consolidate," said. "We pull back to inner core systems. We form a defensive perimeter around Nexus Prime and the central worlds. We attempt to hold what we can hold." But even as he spoke, everyone in the room knew the truth. They would not stop. They would keep coming and coming until everything was devoured. Then a communication came through. It was a priority channel. It was addressed directly to the Galactic Council. The sender was General of Earth. Opened the channel with trembling hands. The holographic image of the human general appeared in the center of the assembly hall. She stood in the command center on Earth. Behind her, officers moved with quiet efficiency. She looked at the assembled council members with an expression that showed no emotion. "I received your distress signals," said. Her voice was clear and steady. "I received multiple requests for human military assistance. I understand that the Galactic Council is in danger. The Council is facing extinction." Leaned forward, hope flooded through him. The humans would help. The humans were coming. "We will provide assistance." Continued, "But let me be clear about the terms. Humanity will conduct rescue operations in outer sector colonies. We will evacuate civilians from threatened worlds. We will transport refugees to safe locations. We will save lives." Relief filled the assembly hall. "However," said, and her next words killed the relief instantly. "We will not engage the military. We will not participate in council defense strategies. We will not fight your war. We will save your people, but we will not save your power." The hall erupted in chaos. Representatives screamed questions. Some demanded that change her terms, some begged, some raged. Waited for the noise to die down. When it did, she spoke again. "Those are the terms. Take them or leave them. We are launching evacuation operations in 2 hours. Any civilian who wants to leave their home world can be transported to safe human space. They will be cared for. They will be protected. But we are not coming to rescue the Galactic Council's military or its power. We are coming to save lives." The connection cut off. In the hours that followed, something strange happened. The civilian populations of the threatened colonies received news that humans were coming. They would be rescued. They could leave. They could survive. The military forces of the Council, meanwhile, were told nothing. They received no assistance. They received no reinforcements. They were on their own. And they were losing. Human ships began to appear throughout the outer sectors. They were not battleships. They were cargo vessels and transport ships. They were fast and agile. They appeared above dying worlds and lowered evacuation platforms. They noticed the human ships. Their hive mind processed the threat. They determined that humans were not engaging in military combat. They determined that humans were retreating rather than advancing. The decided humans were not priority targets. Commander Hayes piloted a rescue ship called the Liberty's Light. He was 38 years old. He had been in the military for 15 years. He had seen combat before, but he had never seen anything like the devastation on the ground. On the world of Prime, his team landed in a city that was half destroyed. Buildings were burning. The sky was filled with smoke and ash. Weapons had vaporized entire neighborhoods. His crew moved quickly through the streets. They pulled survivors from rubble. They helped children and old people. They gathered anyone who could be moved and brought them to the ship. A young child could not walk. Her leg had been damaged by falling debris. A human soldier named picked her up and carried her to the ship. She cried. She did not understand what was happening. All she knew was that the monsters were coming. Held her close. He spoke to her in a low voice, even though she could not understand his words. He spoke to her because she needed to hear that someone cared. That someone was trying to save her. The rescue operation lasted 6 minutes. Commander Hayes and his crew extracted 300 survivors from a world that had held 2 million people. As they lifted off, they could see ships descending through the atmosphere. 300 people out of 2 million. Hayes felt the weight of it. He felt the failure of it. He felt the terrible mathematics of having to choose who lived and who died. But he had 300 people who would live. 300 people who would see another day because humanity had come. Across the outer sectors, human ships conducted the same operations. They saved who they could save. They transported refugees to safety. They did not fight. They did not engage the military, but they saved lives. In 7 weeks of operations, human forces evacuated 9 million refugees from threatened worlds. The Galactic Council's military forces were destroyed almost completely. More than 200 billion people died in the assault. But 9 million lived because humans came. On Nexus Prime, watched the reports come in. The Galactic Council's military was gone. Its outer territories were lost. Its power was broken. But humanity had come. Humanity had saved millions. Humanity had done what the Council itself could not do. He thought back to the assembly hall. He thought about Price walking away. He thought about the words he had spoken. Primitive, weak, insignificant. He looked at the data showing human rescue operations continuing throughout the outer sectors. He looked at the human ships moving through space with perfect coordination and absolute purpose. He began to understand that he had made a terrible mistake. In the command center on Earth, General watched her screens. She watched the push deeper into Council space. She watched the Council's military collapse. She watched 9 million refugees arrive in human space. She turned to Price, who stood beside her. "They are learning," she said. The destroyed hive ship hung in space like the corpse of some great leviathan. It had crashed into an asteroid field during the initial assault on the outer sectors. When human salvage teams arrived, they found the interior still intact. The technology was still functional. The data was still accessible. Dr. Victor led the analysis team. He was 61 years old. His hair was white. His hands showed the tremors that came with age, but his mind was sharp as a laser blade. He had spent 40 years studying alien technology. He had spent 40 years trying to understand how other species thought. Now he was looking at something that changed everything. The salvage team had recovered the tactical database. It contained information about the species they had encountered. It contained battle plans. It contained intelligence assessments. And it contained something else. A report written in a dialect that's translation software could barely process. It was old. The date was wrong by their calendar, but calculated it was at least 30 years old in Earth years. The report was about humanity. Read it again and again. He read it until he was absolutely certain he understood what he was reading. Then he called General. "You need to see this," he said, "right now, not through a video call, in person. This is important." 2 hours later was in the research facility on Mars. She stood in front of the holographic display that showed the report. The document floated in the air between her and. "Translate it for me," said. Took a breath. 30 years ago, a single scout ship encountered a human vessel in deep space. It was a scientific exploration ship, the kind that goes out to look for new worlds. The scout ship attacked. The human ship fought back, and it won. Said nothing. That is not surprising by itself. Continued. But what is surprising is what the scout reported back to their hive mind. According to this document, the human ship used something that the classified as a bioweapon. Something that could infect and destroy hive-minded species. Frowned, we have never developed bioweapons. The Biological Weapons Convention specifically forbids. I know what we forbid, said. He pulled up another file, but they did not know that. The human captain, her name was Grant, made a statement when they attacked. She said, I am authorized to deploy our genetic defense systems. She said it to intimidate the scout. There were no genetic defense systems, said. Exactly, said, but they did not know that. The human captain made it sound like she had them, and they believed her. Studied the holographic document. Her brilliant tactical mind was already processing the implications. What happened to that scout ship? She asked. It was destroyed, said. The human ship damaged it severely and it fell into a star. The only record of the encounter is in this database, and in this encounter report, the classified humans as a species with devastating bioweapon capabilities. But we do not have those weapons, said. We do not, agreed, but the thought we did, and for 30 years they avoided human space. Do you understand what that means? Did understand, she understood perfectly. They attacked the Galactic Council because they thought the Council could not harm them, said slowly. But they avoided human space because they believed we could. Not just believed, said, they feared us. Their entire strategic doctrine has been built around the assumption that humans have bioweapon capabilities that could destroy their hive mind. Walked to the window. Through it, she could see the vast landscape of Mars. She could see the human colonies that had been built here. She could see the evidence of human determination and human strength. They did not attack us because they were afraid of us, said, and we did nothing to dispel that fear. We let them believe it. Your withdrawal from the council, said, it probably made them believe it more. You separated yourself from the council. You became mysterious. You became unknown. They started to think, why would humanity be so confident? Why would humanity walk away if they did not have some kind of hidden advantage? Turned back to face him. Her eyes were bright with understanding. They were afraid of us, she said, not because we were strong, but because we seemed to have secrets, because we seemed to know something they did not. And now, continued, now they are hesitant. Their assault on the council has slowed, their forward momentum has stopped. They are consolidating, they are being careful, they are afraid of a human counterattack. But we are not going to attack, said. No, agreed, but they do not know that. Smiled, it was not a cruel smile. It was a smile of absolute understanding. It was the smile of someone who had been given the answer to a puzzle that had haunted them for months. The galaxy does not know what we are, she said. They have no idea. The council thinks we are weak because we are young. They think we are powerful because we are mysterious. Neither of them understands what we truly are. She looked back at the holographic document, showing the assessment of humanity. How is the report classified? She asked. It is buried deep in their tactical database, said, but it is there. If anyone wanted to find it, they could. If anyone wanted to know the truth about why they avoided human space for 30 years, they could find it here. Then we leave it, said. We let it be found. We let the council discover that the feared humanity because of something a captain said 30 years ago. Let them wonder about what we might be capable of. Looked surprised. You want them to know the truth. Not the truth, said. I want them to wonder. I want them to question. I want them to understand that there are things they do not know about us. I want them to respect humanity not because we told them to, but because they are afraid to disrespect us. Over the next weeks, the document was discovered, not by the council, by a private researcher who was looking through the salvaged data. The information spread through the council like wildfire. They had been afraid of humanity. They had avoided human space because they believed humans had bioweapons. They had possibly slowed their assault because they feared human intervention. The council began to wonder. They began to question. They began to look at humanity differently. On Nexus Prime received the news. He read the tactical assessment. He read the fear in every translated line. He understood then that humanity had not just walked away from the council. Humanity had done something far more clever. They had let the council think they were weak. Then they had let them think they were strong. They had positioned themselves at the center of galactic power without ever making a single aggressive move. They had done it through patience, through strategy, through the manipulation of perception. Realized he was looking at the greatest strategic mind in the galaxy, and that mind was human. On Earth in the command center, watched the reports continue to come in. She watched them reduce their assault. She watched them consolidate. She watched them become hesitant. She turned to Price. "It is working," she said. The assault stopped, not suddenly, not like a switch being turned off, but gradually, piece by piece, their offensive slowed and then halted. They consolidated their gains. They stopped advancing. They began to dig in and fortify their positions. The Galactic Council slowly realized they were not going to be destroyed after all. The realization came with humiliation. The Council had been saved by the species they had dismissed. They had been rescued by the humans they had called weak. They had been protected by the very creatures they had mocked in the assembly hall. And the humans had asked for nothing. They had not demanded payment. They had not demanded political favor. They had simply acted. They had simply saved lives. Now, 3 months after the assault had stopped, the Galactic Council sent an official delegation to Earth. Price received them in the Human Government Center in Geneva. The building was not as grand as the assembly hall on Nexus Prime. It did not reflect every color in the spectrum. It was simple. It was functional. It was human. Entered the meeting chamber with a small group of representatives. The ancient moved carefully. His lights flickered slowly. His translator gave his words a formal tone that they would not have had in his own language. "We are here to express the gratitude of the Galactic Council. Began. You saved billions of our people. You preserved the existence of our civilizations. You did this when you had every reason to let us fall." Price looked at he said nothing. "We were wrong about humanity," continued. "We were wrong about your strength. We were wrong about your intentions. We were simply wrong." Still said nothing. "We are here to ask for reconciliation." Said, "We are here to ask if humanity will return to the Galactic Council, if you will help us rebuild, if you will join us in defending the galaxy against the threat." Price leaned forward. His hands were folded on the table in front of him. "The Galactic Council dismissed humanity," he said quietly. "The Council said we were weak. The Council said we were primitive. The Council said our strength did not matter. Do you remember?" Lights flickered with something that might have been shame. "We remember," he said. "Then you should understand something," said. "Humanity does not respond to words. Humanity does not move when asked. Humanity acts when it believes action is necessary. The assault was necessary, so we acted. But that action was not taken for the Galactic Council. That action was taken because humans believe in the protection of innocent life." He paused. He looked directly into his ancient eyes. "We will consider a new arrangement with the Council," he said, "but the terms will be different from before. Humanity will not be a junior partner. Humanity will not be a species seeking approval. Humanity will be an equal in all matters of galactic importance. We will make our own decisions. We will vote with full authority, and we will be respected." "The Council accepts these terms," said immediately. "Do not speak for the Council," said. "The Council will accept these terms or humanity will continue on its own path. We do not need the Council. We have already proven that. The question now is whether the Council needs humanity." The implication was clear. The Council had been brought to the edge of destruction. The Council had been saved by humans. The Council would never be the supreme power in the galaxy again. Understood this. Every representative in the room understood this. "The Council will accept the terms," said carefully. "Humanity will have full voting authority. Humanity will be represented in all Council committees. Humanity will have equal say in matters of galactic defense and development." Nodded. "Good. We will send our delegates back to Nexus Prime, but understand this. Humanity will not be bound by Council decisions that we do not agree with. We will not follow orders. We will cooperate when cooperation serves our interests. That is the only arrangement that will ever work with humanity." The meeting lasted 3 hours. When it was done, the Galactic Council had been fundamentally changed. Humanity had a seat at the table, not a guest seat, not a provisional seat, a permanent seat with full voting authority. As left, he paused at the door. "You knew," he said you knew what would happen. You knew they would attack. You knew we would fall. You knew we would need you." Price did not deny it. "A wise diplomat," he said, "does not hope for the best. A wise diplomat prepares for all possibilities." Back on Nexus Prime, the Galactic Council held its first meeting with humanity as a full member. Was no longer the dominant voice. He was one voice among many, and when decisions were made, humanity's vote counted the same as anyone else's. The minor species that had been rescued by humans began to apply for representation in human space. The collective voted to establish a joint government with human oversight. The smaller merchant civilizations began to trade exclusively with human corporations. A sphere of human influence was forming, not through conquest, not through force, but through respect and through the simple fact that humans had proven they were willing to save lives when others would not. General remained the commander of human military forces, but now she was answering to a government that saw her not as a weapon but as a protector. Her soldiers were not sent to wars of conquest. They were sent to protect. They were sent to rescue. They were sent to do the work that the galaxy needed doing. Commander Hayes led a joint patrol with soldiers from the collective. They were preparing to monitor the border. They were going to ensure that the did not expand further. They were going to be the guardians of peace. Hayes looked at the soldiers beside him. They looked at him with respect. They had seen him rescue their people. They had seen him put human lives at risk to save civilians. They had seen him choose compassion over conquest. That was the strength of humanity. On Mars, Dr. Victor published his findings about the assessment of humanity. The paper explained how fear can be stronger than weapons, how perception can be more important than reality, how humanity had positioned itself as a power that could not be understood, and in doing so, had made itself untouchable. The galaxy read his paper and understood something fundamental. Humanity was not like other species. Humanity did not dominate through weapons. Humanity dominated through mystery, through the uncertainty of what they might do, through the fear of the unknown. And most importantly, humanity dominated through the simple moral choice to save lives. Months passed, years began, the remained contained. The Council became a true partnership of equals rather than a hierarchy. Human researchers worked with scientists from a dozen different worlds. Human soldiers stood shoulder to shoulder with warriors from species they had never even heard of before. And in the observation post above Earth, Price stood alone. He looked down at his world. He looked at the blue and white globe turning slowly in the darkness of space. He thought about the assembly hall. He thought about its mocking words. He thought about the moment he had decided that humanity would no longer ask for respect. Humanity would simply be what it was. And the galaxy would learn to respect that. A young officer approached him. Her name was Lisa. She was on her first tour of duty as a translator for the Joint Council delegation. "Ambassador Price," she said, "the Council is requesting your presence for the Joint Defense Strategy meeting." Nodded, he turned away from the window. "Tell them I will be there," he said. As he walked toward the conference room, Price felt the weight of everything that had happened. The dismissal, the withdrawal, the crisis, the revelation, the new order. He felt the responsibility of it. He felt the burden of knowing that humanity's future now depended on the choices they made every single day. But he also felt something else. He felt pride. Humanity had not fought to prove itself. Humanity had not raged against the unfairness of being dismissed. Humanity had simply done what humans do. It had protected the innocent. It had acted with courage and dignity. It had shown the galaxy what it truly was. And in doing so, humanity had changed the course of galactic history. In the quiet space between the stars, human ships patrolled alongside the ships of 100 different species. They maintained the peace. They protected the innocent. They did the work that no one else would do. And slowly, carefully, without ever announcing it, humanity had taken its rightful place in the galaxy. Not as a junior partner, not as a species seeking validation, but as a power that could not be ignored, a power that could not be measured, a power that existed in the space between what others could see and what they could only fear. The Galactic Council had made a choice when it dismissed humanity. Humanity had made a choice when it walked away. And the galaxy would spend the next 1,000 years learning what that choice had meant. In the darkness of space, the stars looked down on the blue and white world that had changed everything. And in the hearts of humans everywhere, there was a quiet certainty. This was only the beginning. "For what is?" Price asked. "The greatest deception in galactic history," said. "They are afraid of us, not because we are strong, but because they cannot see us clearly, and that fear is stronger than any weapon we could ever create." She looked at the screens showing space, showing the ships moving through the darkness, showing the slow beginning of the end of the assault. "The galaxy is beginning to understand," she said. "Humans are not weak, humans are not strong, humans are something else. Humans are dangerous in a way that nobody can define. In the outer sectors, refugees settled into human colonies. They told stories about the human rescue operations. They told stories about human soldiers carrying children through burning ruins. They told stories about humans who came to save them when the mighty Galactic Council could not. The Council was learning, there was learning. But the most important learning was just beginning. "Are they?" Price asked. No, said not yet, but they will. The galaxy is about to discover what humanity truly is. She looked back at the screens, showing human rescue ships moving through burning skis. And it will change everything. Hay formed new patterns. They established new protocols. They prepared for a future that would not include the Galactic Council. And in the command center on Earth, General watched her screens and waited. She knew what was coming. She had known it would come the moment Price walked out of the assembly hall. The real test was coming. The galaxy was about to learn what it meant to underestimate humanity. Exactly what we truly are. The wheels of human preparation began to turn, quietly, relentlessly, without anger, without fear. With absolute certainty that the galaxy had made a terrible mistake.